Gentlemen, last night I did a piss poor job of recording that episode. I completely forgot about a segment that I wanted to talk about when talking about the word wretched, because I was talking about going through the etymology of words, and then I brought up a couple of books that I'll use that I like to use. I mean, I have others, I didn't show them all. But what I didn't go into is like the etymology of the English word wretched. And so like this is one of the things that I'll do. So I snap a picture of the page, and then I say translate stanza 69, and so then it does. It said, not all is wretched, even though a man may be poor in health. Some are happy with their children, some with their kin, some with their wealth, and some with good deeds they have done. And then it gives its own interpretation of it. I don't really care about that. So what I said is write it out word for word with the English word next to the Old Norse word. This is kind of like how I go about figuring out things, the meaning of words and whatnot. And so then it does, ba 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 ba, and then I find, and then get to here. Here's this word, vessel. That's the word wretched that they're translating as to wretched, or that, yeah, the word vessel is the one that they're translating into wretched. So that's what I was trying to find, and then I'm like, okay, how do you pronounce vessel? And it's like the old Norse word vessel is pronounced approximately as sol. You know, so here's a breakdown of the word. VEH, the E is pronounced like the E in get, so it's ve, ve. The A is, then you get down to the sol part. The A is pronounced like the A in father, ah, ah. So, and the L is slightly softened. The double L, because it's got two L's up here, so that's why there's two L's. It's not talking about the L in Saul in this phonetic writing of how you say that. Uh, and in Old Norse, a double L can sound like a light TL or DL. So to me, a DL, like if you think of saddle, or a TL, little. So Visol, you're putting that O at the end of it. But I'm not really trying to discuss how you pronounce a word, because I don't I don't agree with the strict adherence to pronouncing a word the way that an academic might tell you. Because are you going to pronounce it like somebody in Iceland today, where they say Hávamál, that A is pronounced like an ow, Hávamál? Or are you going to pronounce it like a Scandinavian person that's going to say Havamal? And I'm not even pronouncing it the way right now, the way I'm describing an Icelander and a Scandinavian, or like somebody from Switzerland or whatever, or Sweden. I'm not pronouncing it the same way there, because I have an American accent, and so when I speak, my American accent is always going to come through. And then, like when I was going through the picture in that old dictionary book, and it was going through the history of the etymology of the word, you know, uh, academics have no problem discussing and accepting that over 1,000 years, and like whether you go over a distance of whether you go over a length of time or distance, how words get pronounced will change. So I don't agree with trying to pronounce it like they did 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago, whatever. Fuck all that dumb shit. I talk today the way I speak right now. And if this word is vessel, I'm just going to say vessel, vessel. Like, I'm not going to try to pronounce it like somebody from a long ass time ago. But so then it's like, we got to go, all right, now you have to ask, what is the etymology of wretched? Because this is what they're breaking it down to. So you go, is the etymology of the word. Oops, where's my T? Question mark. Enter. Because this is why I was saying in the last episode, the word wretched was kind of like messing me up, because I was like, bro, if we all have used the word wretched and we know what it means, and if somebody is wretched, I'm sorry, I don't want you around me. I don't care if you make good money. I don't care about those other parts of the stanza. So let's get into the origins of. It's an Old English word. The word comes from reked or reka, meaning an outcast, an exile, or a person driven away. The root verb rekan means to drive out, avenge, or pursue. So that's kind of interesting, because to drive somebody out is very different than to avenge somebody. So this is another one of those words that has like uh it's a two sides of a coin. It has opposite meanings. Avenging a person is or avenging yourself is far different, or pursuing somebody is far different than but it of being an outcast or an exile or driving out. But it's slightly different, right? This is reked and reka, and this is rekan. So maybe it's like that, like today we say like, you better reckon what you're doing, otherwise you're gonna get yourself in some trouble. So maybe that's where we get that from. I have no idea. I haven't done the etymology on the word reckon that starts with an R. Usually, I've always thought of that word as meaning something that has to do with your thought process, or you just better be thinking. Proto-German. But let's move on. The Proto-Germanic derived from rekyaz, because meaning persecuted, exiled, or driven, related to the verb bracana. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, meaning to drive, push, or persecute. Proto-Indo-European, from the root reg, meaning to drive, chase, or push. This root is also the origin of related words like wreck or wrath. Evolution of meaning. In Old English, reka referred specifically to someone who was an exile or cast out of society. Over time, the term wretched evolved to describe not just physical exile, but also a deep state of misery, distress, or misfortune. By the Middle English period, it also gained a moral or emotional sense, describing somebody pitiable, miserable, or contemptible. Modern usage. Today, wretched refers broadly to someone or something in a very poor, unfortunate, or miserable state. Something of extremely poor quality or morally despicable behavior. Thus, the journey of wretched mirrors a shift from a literal outcast to somebody metaphorically cast into suffering or poor conditions. And that journey of the word doesn't surprise me, because the more complex society gets, we go from our metaphors and our usages of words being very literal and talking about like, you've got a brown stain on your pants because you shit them, and me calling you a brown nose. Now, you don't really have a brown nose, but everybody knows what it means if somebody calls you a brown nose. So that's you've brought in a metaphorical meaning to the word brown, and somebody's describing the color of somebody's nose when you don't really mean that their nose is brown. And so so this word has changed over time from meaning something, a literal outcast, or some to metaphorical things. And so now when you think back about that word, nobody is, or that sentence, that stanza, nobody is completely wretched or totally wretched, whatever the fuck it was, even if their health is bad. And so, that's just something to think about. Talking about that, like going through the etymology of the word and everything, doesn't really change what I was talking about last night. But I mean, that's why I wish I had more people to talk to. I don't have anybody to talk to about this stuff, and so I'm just talking into my microphone after I get home from work late at night. I mean, so take that what it is. I don't know. Okay, and with that out of the way, gentlemen, good evening. I hope you had a good day at work. I hope you had a better day than I did. Not that I had a bad day, I just hope that you had a better one. And welcome to another episode of A Fool's Interpretation of the Havamal. I am your host, Robert the Fool, and today we will be getting into stanzas 73, 74, 75, 76, and 77. So let's start off. Stanza 73. Two men will defeat one. Your tongue can endanger your head. In every hand hidden by a cloak, I expect to see a weapon. Now, this stanza, I feel like every now and then in the Havamal, there are stanzas that are seem like they're kind of out of place, and this one is one of those that I feel like is slightly. I don't want to say that it's out of place or it should be someplace else, but like when you listen to somebody like Jackson Crawford talk about this, like there's the guest part and blah blah blah. Odin's love adventures, even though that's not what it really means. Like if you do a direct translation of it, so like stanzas 69 to 72 have they're telling you why you shouldn't be dead, why it's better to be alive. It's talking why you should have a son, and then all of a sudden when you get to stanza 73, it's saying two men will defeat one, your tongue can endanger your head, in every hand hidden by a cloak I expect to see a weapon. And you're like, well, okay. I mean, like, yeah, that seems like pretty legitimate advice. Yeah, if you're going into a fight and it's 2 against 1, yeah, your odds of winning have just gone down. Now, and then I think he's relating that to your tongue can endanger your head. So there is you, your, I'm going to use like your ego, yourself, and then there's your tongue and your head. And so this might just be my stupid, foolish interpretation of it, but it seems like it's breaking yourself down into 3 egos. And like, how, like, think before you speak. And so your tongue can endanger your head, and like when you say things without thinking, that I think that's what it's talking about. And then then it's your body, like that's your tongue endangering your head endangers your body, because then you're gonna die. You can say some dumb shit, you're gonna piss some wrong person off, or you know what I mean, you're gonna get yourself in some kind of trouble. And then it's like, in every hand hidden by a cloak I expect to see a weapon. All right. I imagine back then people probably wore cloaks all the time because you toss it over your clothing or whatever. But so I don't really care necessarily about that. This whole video series is about how to take the Havamal and apply it to our life today, right? So in every hand hidden by a cloak, I expect to see a weapon. Bro, when I walk down the streets and I'm seeing people with their hands in their hoodie pockets, yes, I expect you to have some kind of a weapon in your hands, especially when you live like in a place where I do near Portland, Oregon. I don't live in Portland. I mean, I'm not going to talk about where I live. But, this is Antifa town, tweaker town, debauchery town. You can't go to a 7-Eleven or a corner market of any kind. You can't even go to a fucking Fred Meyer's without being accosted by these kinds of people. And yeah, when your tweaker ass is walking around in your rags and your hands are hidden, I expect to see a weapon. Uh, and, and the same thing goes not just for the the bum tweakers and all of those kinds of people. It also goes for regular people. If I'm out in public, I'm constantly sizing everybody up, and not necessarily just like for a physical fight. I'm looking at their demeanor. I'm looking at everything about them. I'm looking at the expressions on their face while they talk and what they're doing with their hands. And like I'm thinking about that all the time. And so like when I say that I think sometimes there are stanzas that get thrown into the Havamal randomly, I think it kind of reminds me of how I think about that while I'm like what stanza 73 is talking about, while I'm doing things that have nothing to do with that. So like which makes sense for it being put in a random spot in the Havamal. Because you should always think about what you're saying, and then you should always be wary of danger around you. And so I think that's what I take for it being put in a seemingly random spot. 74. The seaman is glad at evening, looking forward to his dinner, and just a short distance to sail home. But an autumn night is untrustworthy. Many things can get worse in only 5 days, and even more in a month. All right, so let's think about this. Because most of us aren't going out to the sea to do fishing. Like you can go look up like some old photograph from like 1910 of some dude in a little boat going out getting his daily fish, whatever. That has nothing to do, like, thinking about that is not going to really help me in my daily life. So how can I take this metaphor of a seaman being glad at the evening, looking forward to his dinner, and apply it to myself? Well, bro, when I get off of work in the evening, I am looking forward to my dinner. I am looking forward to just a short drive home. Just a short distance to drive home. Some people got to drive like 2 fucking hours. There's a bunch of guys that I work with that live really far away from the place that we work, and I don't like that would just suck some major ass. But this is what it's talking about. After your daily work, you're looking forward to going home for dinner and that drive home. But an autumn night is untrustworthy. Now, I don't know, maybe they did more fishing in the autumn back then. I have no idea. I assume maybe I assume that because right after talking about sailing home from fishing to go home, then it talks about an autumn night. So, okay, do you fish during the autumn on a regular basis, or do you do this more so during the autumn? I mean, that's like October, November. I don't know if they did. Maybe they did. Um, but what I can say, the reason an autumn night is untrustworthy is because you've got the hot air from summer meeting the cold air of winter. And so storms are rage. All like this area where they lived, and this was I don't know what their weather patterns were like back then, but I know what mine are like here um, in Oregon. And the autumn is when we get a lot of our storms, because like I said, the hot weather, air from the summer is meeting cold air coming because of winter, and so that creates windstorms and all that blah blah blah, durka durka dur, all that great stuff. And so you can't trust. And I think that it's all I think it's also it's telling you that an autumn night is untrustworthy, because an autumn night can also an autumn night can also be a really good time to go outside and just the the enjoy the outside, enjoy being outside, or like or on my drive home from work, an autumn night can turn into a rainstorm like real quick, and at the drop of a hat, it can go from sprinkling or not raining at all to heavy clouds coming in and there being a bunch of wind and a bunch of rain. And so many things can get worse in only 5 days, and even more in a month. I think that's talking about storm weather. Somebody's it's gonna pass soon, and then a week later you're snowed in, or you're flooded, something is flooded, trees have fallen, you're stuck. Now you've got to deal with getting clearing trees off of your driveway and stuff like that. Like, I live on a farm right now, so I deal with trees falling over my driveway. Most people don't. Most people today live in suburbs. So, like, your power is going to go out. If you get an autumn storm, that like what's going on right now, what did they call it? They called it a cyclone bomb, a bomb cyclone. They're coming up with all these fucking gay terms for weather phenomena. It's not phenomena. It's not fucking strange. This is the Pacific Northwest. We get crazy wind rainstorms and lightning in the autumn. Like that's normal per usual. And if you live in a suburb and you got these big fir trees all around your house in your neighborhood and stuff, they don't have the root system to hold themselves up because of the roads and all the pipes on the ground and all of that dumb shit. The construction of the world does not allow the roots of that giant ass fir tree or whatever tree in your front yard or your backyard to develop a large enough root system to keep it from falling down. Like, the trees that fall down on my property, they're like dead trees or dying trees or trees that have some kind of sickness or something. You'll never when you see these perfectly healthy looking trees fall over in a city during a storm, it's because they don't have their root system to hold them up. It's not because something's wrong with the tree. I never have perfectly healthy trees fall down on my property unless for some reason the ground has become such a muck mess that there's like what the roots are using to hold on to, it just all goes away because of such a heavy rainstorm. But the taproot of a good healthy tree, which is like the center, like there's a center root that just goes straight down as deep as it can, like that should anchor a good healthy tree like no problem. And like these trees are meant to withstand these these storms. They've been growing for a zillion fucking years. So it didn't fall over because we're having more crazy storms. It fell over because we built roads and pipes and put pipes underground and put all this dumb shit. Like, there's nowhere for the roots to go. And then they're sucking up constant car oil and all the dumb stuff that's in the storm drains, blah, blah, blah. It gets into the water table, fucks them all up. Sorry, kind of going on that rant right there, but we're dealing with some windstorms right now, and I can't stand these people. on the news talking about bomb cyclones. Like, the wind exploded and knocked all these trees over. Did you people know that? Did you know wind can it's a bomb? Fucking stupid. 75. The ignorant man does not know how little he knows. You become foolish by listening to fools. One man is rich, another man is poor. Neither has the other to blame. Now, you know you're listening to a fool right now. I'm this goddamn fool. But does this fool you're listening to right now make you more foolish? I don't know. I don't know you, so I have no idea. The only way you could become more wise is by like talking to each other, and then you need to, like I've talked about before, you need to be able to critique yourself and then critique the people around you. And you guys have to, like, when you're expressing your ideas to somebody, you need to accept the fact that you can be wrong, and a lot of times you are going to be wrong, and then use that other person's perspective to better formulate your own. Like whenever I think about ideas, or like, it always reminds me of like using like a chisel to carve a piece of wood or something, and you you're trying to formulate on, like, say you're trying to come up with a see, like, trying to come up with some kind of metaphor right off the top of your head, it can be difficult for us foolish fools, and spend a whole bunch of time, like, even though I've read this stanza dozens of times, and I've thought about it probably for countless hours over the years, and then trying to, you'd think I'd have a metaphor to just like pull out of my ass right now and talk about it, but I don't know. I don't really have one. All I can say is, if you're going to be talking to somebody about ideas, you can't just be going, yeah, 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 you are right. And then that person, yeah, you're right too. You're right about that. Yeah, yeah, we are right about that. When you do that, that's when you get a congressman that is got like fake boobs and is trying to go into the bathroom and be, I'm a woman. Bro, you're not a fucking woman. You're mentally disturbed and you need to be in an insane asylum. uh like, when fools talk to each other, they eat their own shit and they become more retarded. So if you talk to somebody and if they never critique your ideas and make you be self-analytical of yourself, make you be self-analytical of yourself, that was fucking retarded. Listen to this fool that's talking to you right now. Okay, here's a metaphor. See, they talk about something for a while. Have you ever seen the movie SLC Punk? And then the Steve-O meets this girl at the end who asks him, why you dye your hair? Why do you wear all this clothes? Like, you're talking about, trying to like fight the system, but like, here's a uniform. You've like joined a system, and to like, you're a punk, you're a punk. And then he's talking about how he's like, it's driving him crazy. He's like, he can't. She's pissing him off because she's being critical of his core ideas about the world. But at the same time, he wants more of it because he knows that she's right. And he's like, and that is the kind of woman that men need in their lives. She didn't belittle him, but she put his ideals in front of his face for him to critique. And that's the kind of woman that you need. Those are the kinds of friends that you need. And you need to be able to recognize people like that and keep them with you. Let's move on to 76. Cows die, families die. You will die the same way. But a good reputation never dies for the one who earns it well. These next couple of stanzas, I think are pretty straightforward. I don't think so. I'm just going to read them all together and then we'll discuss them. So 77. Cows die, family die. You will die the same way. I know only one thing. I know only one thing that never dies. The reputation of the one who's died. Now, this goes back to the previous segment that I made the other day, talking about why it's good to have a son. Well, not necessarily a son, but just children. Why it's good to have a family. Who's going to remember you when you die? Your family. If you don't have a family and you're not like some famous, beloved person by the public, then nobody's going to remember you when you die. Even like yeah, sure, you might help some people along the way during your life. You pull over on the side of the road and you help the person that's broke down. That's good. You do that. You see someone broke down on the side of the road, pull over, stop, help them. You might do something to help the poor families, do food drives and stuff like that. Yeah, those people might remember you, but really the ones who are seriously going to be remembering you after you die is your immediate family. And I think that what these stanzas are talking about, 76, 77, and 76 and 77, I think they're just, I don't think there's really much to dig into with talking about them. Because I hate making comparisons to like other religions or whatnot, but like, but the Havamal is being very like, I guess, pragmatic, and like, because nowhere in the Havamal does it really talk about. It doesn't talk about you going to Asgard or Valhalla or some other hall of one of the different gods. Like Frigg gets half of the men, that are going to fight in Ragnarok and blah blah, all of that stuff. This doesn't talk about that. This is talking about this is talking about how the world is going to remember you, not what's going to happen to you after you die. Some people I've heard talk about how they think that this means no one, like, they didn't really have a care about like a soul or whatever. But I completely disagree with that, because when it talks about hell and it talks about Asgard and the different halls that the gods have up there that we can go to, hell sounds like a horrible place. Asgard sounds like a great place. You know what I mean? So I I feel, I don't understand when people say that back then they didn't really care about what happened to their soul after they died or whatever. But again, this video series really isn't about what they thought back then. I don't care about that. I'm not a historian. I'm not some fucking theologian trying to decipher. Like, bro, the idea that people pore over the like 56 books of the Talmud or something like that for thousands of, like, bro, they've been poring over those books for a couple thousands of years, still trying to lament and like figure out what shit means or whatever. And it's like I just I just don't understand that. Like how in a religion that is so well documented, I'm talking about the Jewish faith, in a religion that is so well documented for so many thousands of years, and so many things, so many books talk within their religion that are canon for their religion, talking about what they think about everything. like you still have people that are debating about aspects of your religion. It's weird to me. Um, and so like it's stuff like that, uh, which I think is kind of weird here too, because this is like a resurgence for like the last 50 years. There's been, well, more than 50 years, but because there's a bunch of translations from like the 1910s and 1890s, what like gosh, yeah, like Olive Bray, you know, um, and just other guys. This is this religion is spurring back into being practiced over the last like 150 years or something like that, And so people are debating, did the Norse think about that? They have souls? Do they not have souls? What do they? I'm like, I don't. How are you debating this? They talk about you can go to hell and you can go to one of the different halls of the gods. So you definitely have something like a soul. But this is talking about real life, like while you're alive, and then and people and the world, the physical world. The Havamal isn't talking about spirituality. The Havamal is talking about very pragmatic, real life things. And so I think people get hung up on this. He says, I know only one thing that never dies. And people are like, but your soul never dies. He's like, bro, shut the fuck up. Like, can you not like figure out, like, right now we're talking about living world things, because go read some of the sagas and the poetic Edda and the prose Edda and stuff, and there are dozens and dozens of stories and parts where people's souls are being something, that their soul is doing something. Somebody goes into a burial mound, somebody goes down to hell to talk to a dead person, or that like but their body got burnt or buried. They aren't digging them, like, well, sometimes, like, see, that's the thing, because then maybe this is the thing they're all getting like confused about. It's like when you go down into, somebody goes and hangs out near some dead people that are buried. Are they? It's not like they're you talking to their physical dead body, but it's like, okay, so there's no flesh and whatnot on this skeleton. So like, it's not like the skeleton could be physically talking to you. Obviously, there is some kind of a fucking soul attached to this corpse that is talking to you. Like, like I don't understand. Like when people say only one thing that never dies is your reputation. So they think what was the most important was your reputation. Like, no, I definitely think that they thought it was most important to be on Odin's side during Ragnarok to try to help prevent it. And instead of going to hell. If you're going to hell, you're probably going to be some thrall in Loki's army in his naval ships. Like he leads a whole group of ships that come fuck shit up. So it's like I, the whole idea, like, I think that you have a soul, and I think that when you die, you are judged by your actions in life, and if you are not noble, then you're going to go to hell. And if you're not noble throughout your life, then your reputation is going to suck, and it's not going away. After you die, people are going to be like, yeah, I remember that guy. He was a piece of shit. And then that's how people are going to talk about you after you're dead. So, it is what it is. But I think I've been going on long enough tonight. So I'm going to hop off of here, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good night.